Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers Report, my final Niners 53-man roster projection. Keep in mind that by Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern, all 32 teams across the NFL have to get those rosters down to 53 players. So now it's my final look at who I think is going to make it. First, though, subscribe, because whenever we find out what the Niners official roster is, at least their initial 53-man roster, we're going to talk about it here. That's why you lock us in by subscribing, but turn on those notifications. Therefore, anytime we push out a video, anytime we go live, you'll be notified, and you'll be able to stay in the know with every single move that the Niners make year-round. Let's start off at the quarterback position. Brock Purdy is safe. Sam Darnold is now going to be the backup quarterback, especially after Trey Lance was dealt to the Dallas Cowboys for that fourth-round pick. Yeah, in case you missed it. And if you missed it, I don't know where you've been. Trey Lance was traded to the Dallas Cowboys on Friday. And I do think that Brandon Allen, as of right now, is going to be QB3. I'm interested to see what the Niners do here if they scour the quarterback market for a quarterback who they believe is a little bit better. For instance, Colt McCoy was just let go by the Arizona Cardinals. P.J. Walker was supposed to be the backup for Justin Fields. He got cut as well. But Brandon Allen has been with this team all offseason. He knows this offense. The coaching staff seems to really like him. When I watch his game, I frankly don't think that he's that good, but clearly this coaching staff likes Brandon Allen a lot, so those are the three quarterbacks that I'm going for this initial 53-man roster. Running backs and the lone fullback now. Is this going to be the last year for Kyle Juszczyk, by the way? It's going to continue to get expensive. He's getting a little bit older. And how long are the Niners going to be willing to pay big-time dollars to a fullback? I love him because he's the best fullback in the game, but money's going to start to get tight. Prepare yourselves for that after the 2023 season. Either way, for this year, he's definitely going to make the squad because he's an absolute beast who can open up some running lanes. When you run the football, he can pass protect. He can carry the football. He can catch it. He's just a freak at that fullback spot. The other running backs who I think make it, Christian McCaffrey, of course, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Ty Davis-Price. All of this became pretty clear throughout the preseason that this was the running back rotation. As of Monday, Elijah Mitchell did return to the practice field. Wide receivers now. This is a pretty good battle for those last couple of spots. Brandon Aiyuk, he's my number one wide receiver on this Niners roster because I do believe he's the best all-around wideout on this team. Deebo Samuel going to be used like a Swiss Army knife once again. Hopefully he can return to his 2021 All-Pro form. And then after that, you have Jauan Jennings, who's that security blanket out of the slot. Some bad drops in training camp in the preseason. It seems as though he struggles with those bad drops often, but when push comes to shove in a clutch moment, how often has Jauan Jennings been able to make a play? Because Ronnie Bell was so good in the preseason, you can't risk letting him go. He looked like Deebo Samuel light, and if he were to get cut, another team's going to scoop him up immediately after they watch what he did on tape in the preseason. So I think he makes the 53. And then Ray McCloud and Danny Gray, injured right now. If you were to put them on IR right now, they'd have to miss the entire season. If they open up on the 53, then you put them on short-term IR. They only have to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. That could be a play. And then after that, San Francisco would clearly have to make some external moves at that wide receiver position. Bring in a guy like Willie Snead on from the practice squad to the 53. Chris Conley, if he's not too banged up, although he's expected to miss a couple of weeks because of a shoulder injury. Tight ends. Had a difficult time here. George Kittle, best all-around tight end in the NFL when you factor in pass catching and blocking. Ross Dwelley can play special teams, and he got a lot of run in the preseason. I think his roster spot is safe. Then you drafted Cam Latu in the 3rd round, and then Brayden Willis in the 6th round out of Oklahoma. Latu, I think, is going to make this team, unless, because of that meniscus injury, they decide to put him on season-ending IR. That opens up a roster spot for somebody else. That is something that we have to keep an eye out for, and it depends on the severity of the injury. And obviously, I'm not sure what the severity of the injury is other than it's a meniscus injury, and he's going to have to get surgery. So do they want to shelf him for the entire season? It would basically serve as a redshirt year, or do they believe that he could come back at some point? Brayden Willis, do you risk him getting let go? And then there's a risk that he wouldn't be able to come back to the practice squad because he would get claimed elsewhere. I think he has value as a guy who can play special teams. He also played a little bit of fullback at Oklahoma as well, and I just don't think that Charlie Warner moves the needle at all. So 4 tight ends for me, although this one was very, very difficult. To offensive line, your starters from left to right, Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, and Colton McKivitz. The backups here, John Feliciano because he can play center as well as guard. Matt Pryor because he's had a pretty solid offseason and got the praise from Chris Forster as a guy who's not even a scheme fit, but just because of his experience, he's been able to have a pretty good training camp in preseason. And anytime a guy like Brian Baldinger is giving you a shout out on the Baldy's breakdowns, that shows you that Matt Pryor is playing well. Some people think that Jalen Moore might make this team, and he very well might. But Chris Forster has even said he's been underwhelming. You know who hasn't been underwhelming is Ilm Manning, the UDFA out of Hawaii, who had really good pass protection numbers all throughout the preseason. Short arms, so his future might be as a guard, as we've talked about. But shoot, he held up well at left tackle. And if he can give you that tackle guard flexibility, and he's played really well in the preseason, there are so many teams who are desperate for offensive line help. If you let him go, you risk losing him as well. I think he's too much of a gem to let go. He's making my 53. So with that, before we get to the defensive side of the football, the San Francisco 49ers have the blank best roster in the NFL. Fill in the blank for me and let me know. And as you venture down there, down in the description of this video, you can find yourselves these San Francisco t-shirts. Support the show by copping one of these and get geared up for the season. We've been able to sell these literally worldwide, from England to Australia to all across America. Get yourselves one right now and be a part of the movement of the San Francisco movement. Chatsports.com/SSF. That is the link. Chatsports.com/SF. That is the link. Get yours now. And like I said, support the show. Defensive lineman. Nick Bosa has an asterisk next to him because if he doesn't sign his contract extension prior to Tuesday, the Niners will have some roster flexibility to use up a roster spot on somebody else because he would not account to that 53-man roster, or count to that 53-man roster, I should say. So that's the big what if here, but for me, obviously, I'm going to have him on this team for the purpose of this exercise. Javon Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw, Drake Jackson, Cleveland Ferrell, Kevin Givens, Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder Jr., all of those players here, obviously, give your team a lot of value. We have Javon Kinlaw twice on this list. It should be Eric Armstead, obviously, who's on this list here. But you look at that kind of starting group, one of the more elite groups in the NFL. I think Cleveland Ferrell, I've said this for a long time since the Niners brought him in. I think he's due for a breakout season. And then Kevin Givens, Kinlaw, Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder Jr., very solid backups. Kinlaw has to be a little bit better against the run. I'm not sure how he isn't because he's such a massive body, but with Fred Warner's sack on Friday against the Chargers, he was a part of the defensive line that really did collapse the pocket there. For some reason, he can move a mountain in pass rush, but against the run, he's awful. Needs to get better in that area. Linebacker here. This is probably the deepest position group on this entire football team. And I'm not sure if San Francisco is going to go about it in this way, where they have 7 guys make the 53. If they do have 7 guys make the initial 53, I think one of them gets traded. And I think it's one of the young players, or a guy like Marcelino McCurry-Ball, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. I'd hate to see the Niners part ways with D. Winters or Jalen Graham. Their sideline-to-sideline speed was exceptional throughout the entire preseason. We know the shoo-ins, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. Oren Burks would have been an easy cut to save yourself some money and to keep one of these younger players. But he got hurt, and he's a very good special teams player. The issue here, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles can contribute on special teams. Marcelino McCurry-Ball, Jalen Graham, D. Winters can contribute on special teams. So if 7 linebackers make the initial 53, look out potentially for one of them to get traded to a team that needs a linebacker. The Niners have kind of operated in that fashion in the past. Jonas Griffith was the player who got traded a couple of years ago to the Denver Broncos. Cornerbacks, Charvarius Ward, Deommodore Lenoir, Ambry Thomas, and Samuel Womack. I go 4 here because I don't think Isaiah Oliver has earned a roster spot. They might keep him, but everything I've seen tells me I don't think that Isaiah Oliver deserves to make this club, and I'll eat the crow. I thought that that was a good signing and bringing him in as a cheaper option to replace Jimmy Ward, but frankly, he's been awful. Missed tackles, lapses in coverage. Steve Wilkes has even said that he lost his spot as far as being the starter, and even though it's not feasible to survive a long time with 4 cornerbacks, you can supplement that by going with a linebacker-heavy personnel group or a safety-heavy personnel group. And if you go with 4 here, you might look to see if a cornerback is let go from another team that you then bring in after the initial 53-man roster is set. Safeties, you have to go 4 here. Talanoa Hufanga, an All-Pro last year in year 2. Deshaun Gibson, long in the tooth, but the veteran balled out last year at a near Pro Bowl, All-Pro level, no cap. Jair Brown, your rookie 3rd-round pick, the highest draft selection for San Francisco in the 2023 NFL Draft. And then George Odom, like Oren Burks, special teams player, but is also injured right now. And because of his special teams ability, he's going to make the 53-man roster as well. Specialists, Jake Moody, Mitch Wishnowsky, and Tabor Pepper should be on that list as well. So Jake Moody and Tabor Pepper, as well as Mitch Wishnowsky. Mitch Wishnowsky will be your punter. Tabor Pepper is your long snapper. What's going to happen with Jake Moody here? Nobody really knows. Matt Mayoko with this, that the 49ers on Monday brought in 2 kickers for workouts today, Tristan Vizcaino and Taylor Russolino. Vizcaino, he spent 1 game with San Francisco back in 2020. He went 3 for 3 on his field goals, including a long of 47, 2 for 2 on PATs, replacing Robbie Gould for that short stint. Russolino, 34 years old, last kicked for the Arlington Renegades of the XFL. A lot of you are probably like, well, Robbie Gould, he's probably better than both of those. Kyle Shanahan hasn't necessarily closed the door on that. You have Zane Gonzalez with the calf injury, and then Jake Moody with that quad injury. And both of their statuses for week 1 kind of in doubt. In fact, Zane Gonzalez is not going to play. Jake Moody has that quad injury. His status is unknown right now. So as of right now, San Francisco, if a game were to happen tomorrow, they would not have a kicker, and a move would have to be made. Not ideal for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, that figures to play in a lot of close games without having a trustworthy kicker or a kicker at all. So grade that Niners roster projection, A, B, C, D, or F. Feel free to praise me or rip me down in the comment section right now.